Okay, welcome to the channel, everybody. My name's Doug, and this is my 1967 Series 2A Landrover, nicknamed Gordon. So, Gordon's been having some trouble with its carburetor, so I've picked up a new one, new to me, and I'm gonna unbox it now. I've just got to find so I just got to get this fella opened up here. And let's see what we got. Carburetor. There we go. There we have it. So the problem I was having is I've got the old Solex. One second. 1, 2, 3. I got the old Solex carburetor in here, and it's very finicky, and I was having some problems getting it to run smoothly. It was bogging down, things like that. And I noticed it had a couple of leaks, things like that, like it was weeping. And I read a few different blogs and whatnot, a few different forums, and it seems to me that the thing to do is to get this carburetor here, which is the Zenith carburetor. So I'm gonna put this guy in and see how we go. It comes as you see it. I got this adapter plate that goes on the bottom. It sits on like that, and then we bolt that guy down once we've got a gasket there, and then we'll take that guy off and start to move it over. So just take this guy off. So that doesn't fall off. Put that guy off. Move there. Put that little fella. Size? Nope. To this, I grab the correct wrenches, and we'll have another go here, just so I'm not going to go back and forth to my little tool room. Just gonna get rid of this guy here. Vacuum Advance, I believe. While I do this, I'd like to tell you a little bit about this Landrover. So this Landrover belonged to my wife's grandfather, and he bought it back in 1974. No, 76, sorry. Because we live here in British Columbia, and to get up to his property, he didn't want to drive his Studebaker, so he bought this guy. And it was relatively new. He got it from someone in town, And what happened? So that's when Grandfather got it, and it was his, you know, his bush truck, I guess you could call it. But in 1983, he wasn't feeling too well, and he came down the mountain and parked this old Landrover under some trees over there in the bush, and jumped in his Studebaker and went to town. And that is when he found out that he had the cancer, and that was basically the end of poor old Granddad. So there the Land Rover sat until 2014, and in the meantime, people being people, they had scavenged parts off it. People had tried to buy it from my mother-in-law, and so on and so forth. And having a bit of trouble reaching this one. Yeah. And my wife, who's from here in British Columbia, we decided to move over and have our kids go to school here when they were really quite small. And my father-in-law had passed away, my wife's father, and the Land Rover was sitting there. They came over for a visit, and it was winter time, and I just noticed this big mound of snow over in the bush over there, like a snowbank. And I said to my wife, "What the heck is under there?" And she's like, "Oh, that's my grandfather's Land Rover." So part 2 of this story is when I was a little kid, my Uncle Gordon had a Land Rover, first one I'd ever seen. And I thought it was the greatest thing I'd ever seen. Didn't have a roof on, it wasn't a normal car. And I thought it was great. And my Uncle Gordon took me for a drive in it. You know, like all proper Land Rovers at the time, it had problems, busted fuel tank, so on and so forth. And I just thought it was great. And so I've had this love for Land Rovers ever since. Before I became a teacher, I used to be a body man, a panel beater, whatever you guys call it in your country. And I was more of a Volkswagen guy, but the Land Rover held a special place in my heart. I just, there were lots of them around. They weren't really a rare thing in Australia because the military used them. So when I moved over here, I was 44, and I was like, hey, that'd be a pretty cool project. And I'm a shop teacher, so I kind of spoke to my principal and I said, I think we've got a great project for the kids. And he said, bring it in. And that's where this restoration began. Let's get off of here. Yucky. Icky. Give it a wipe. Get it in the back there. this little gasket on here. I had to make this one. Hey, come on. Have to do some adjustments. Little adjustments. Come on. Let's see. Let's take that back off. Okay, gasket's in place. And we'll just put this guy on like this. Beautiful. Put some these bolts on here. So back to the story. I had moved to Canada, and or we had moved, my wife and the kids and everything, and I had this project. The principal said that's a great idea, the kids will love it, and the kids did love it. Never seen anything like it. I said it's basically a Meccano set on wheels. And we set about stripping it down. Now, those of you who have restored one of these things, you know how much fun it is stripping these guys down. Well, my students had the same feeling. They had so much fun stripping it down. In fact, they stripped the whole thing down in 2 days. Problem was, they weren't very good at labeling things, and it became quite a mission. Okay, what I've come to understand is that this guy here, it needs to get pulled down. The old Solex one, it would push up, so I've got to change this linkage arm here around. There's apparently a fix you can do. So I'm going to take this off, this spring off, flip this whole armature upside down, and we should be in the game. And so I'm just moving this little guy onto the other side of the arm, so that it will be able to lock into its little ball socket. And then we'll move to the other part. So that's there. This guy is going to hook onto that fella. I just need to move this around the other way. So even though I've got to wait for this linkage, I should be able to test this. So I've got the new vacuum advance line on there, fuel line on. I'm not sure about this guy yet. On the Solex it was like down the bottom there to heat it up. But the linkage will all go here down to here. But in the meantime, I should be able to test it. So I come around here. I've already pressed the primer and pumped some more gas in there. Get some power on. Hit the button. Whew. Well, that sounds pretty nice. I've got to find out about that backfiring though. So I'll work out what's going on with this backfiring, and yeah. Okay, just a general update. So I got the carburetor on, and I modified the old linkage to be able to work with this carburetor, and everything's going fine. No problems. If anything, like it's got this little window here that even that small amount doesn't. There's a tiny bit of play, and that affects it a little bit. So I might need to get some sort of spring. Something, but no, it's good. So far so good. So ultimately, there it is. I just inverted the original arm, straightened out the little flange here, drilled another hole right there, and it's working. Probably not as good as the other one, but it's working for now. I'll give you a bit of a demo. But when that other arm is, I don't know, $160, $170, $100 and something dollars, I just thought maybe the other ways could work, and it did. So that's it for now. Gordon's getting ready to roll here. So I guess to finish off the story, yeah, so Granddad passed, truck was left in the bush, I took it over. I took it to the high school that I worked at, where I work as a shop teacher. We pulled it apart, we put it back together. I'm leaving a pretty big gap. There's like a 10-year gap where I didn't work on it at all, and it was only partly assembled. And you know, as Mike was raising my two kids, and then a friend of mine put me onto a fella that was amazing, and Phil came around and helped me to get any of the complicated bits done, and here it is. So yeah, it's gone pretty well. It's a learning curve for me, learning how to drive a vehicle like this again after, you know, modern times, modern cars. This one is a little bit of getting used to, but I really like it. So hopefully in the next couple of videos, it's going to be taking Gordon out on an adventure. I'm still ironing out a couple of little things, but if you liked what you saw, then subscribe. I'm trying to get a bit of a thing going here, and we'll see you next time.